A trailblazer and an icon passes away from the Chicago Bears family. We'll give you our tribute to Miss Virginia Hallis McCaskey in just a moment. In basketball, the Chicago Bulls made some moves, or did they, LaKeena? I don't know. we'll give you the details or not so details from the Advocate Center in Arturo's Corner shows his press conference. We'll count you down to kickoff in the NFL's edition, 59th edition of the championship game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs with our girl Christine the Queen Manika. In college basketball, the Illini had another ugly loss to Rutgers. Will they bounce back again in their next game this weekend? We'll give you all the details and a whole lot more as the last edition of the Hashtag Football Friday edition for the season starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports on the Hashtag Football Friday. You're locked and loaded and live and in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You better know by now that this is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter X in the IG SCK80. Once again, it's SCK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter X, again, the IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Look in and get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to be a lame, be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you whether you're watching us live on our Facebook and YouTube pages or catching us on the replay. Shout out to the replay gang. Don't forget our motto is this: you know we will provide.
And we'll provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports. Of course, we'll get you ready for the big game down in the Big Easy between the Eagles and the Chiefs. With our girl Christine Manika from KXRB. We got prop bets, odds, over-unders, and all that stuff. You want to make a little bit of cash during the Super Bowl, and there's nothing wrong with that. Also, the Illini suffer another tough loss down over in at Rutgers, and also a couple of statement wins for other teams too, as we get closer and closer to Selection Sunday, and some sports media news, the Blackhawks, and some comments made by a Hall of Famer who have some Blackhawks fans scratching their heads. And speaking of having their heads scratched, I mean, Bulls fans don't do much after trading Zach LaVine. So, Arturo's Corner show us his comments is leaving Bulls fans scratching their heads and so much more. But first, we remember a trailblazer in the NFL ownership. Of course, if you guys remember about this time yesterday, news came across the wires that Virginia McCaskey, the longtime owner of the Chicago Bears, one of the first female owners of the NFL. Of course, her dad was Papa Bear. George Halas passed away at the very young age of 102. And of course, if you saw some of the clips from during the '85 season, during the championship game, Virginia and her husband at the time, who passed away years ago, accepted the trophy in honor of her dad. Remember the NFC trophy is named after her father, George. And there are some people that are wondering, just shows you how much priority some folks are. Have you heard Dan Bernstein from The Score with our buddy Marshall Harris saying that were they going to bring back the Honey Bears, or are they going to? Others are saying, hey, maybe they going to sell the team and said so. I think there's a lot of questions that people are going to be wondering about with her passing. So say what you want about her, but like I said, she was a trailblazer. She did what she did with the founding franchise of the NFL, and she will be missed.
Yeah, she'll definitely be missed. And as you mentioned, she was a visionary, a trailblazer. And listening to a special edition of the Chicago Bears Weekly, which you catch on the Chicago Bears YouTube channel. For those of you that missed it, it was a special episode that aired last night locally here in Chicago, ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network. Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, I thought, did a great job. They had various Hall of Fame players on that program. They talked about Virginia McCaskey, not just as an owner, but as a person. She was one of the first ones to start charities for charities that all teams in professional sports now do this. They have local charities that serves the community, and she started Bears Care, which is still strong and very effective in the community today. And also too, she helped out a couple of franchises in the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers back in the early years of the NFL, and she gave advice to the other councilwomen and female owners, that which I believe they're now between 10 and 22 female representation of female ownership in the NFL today. So for what she did and what her late father did, all the way up to now, we should pay homage to that. But for what she represented as a person, it carried out throughout the whole organization, from the rest of the front office executives on down to the coaches and through the players. Her personality, her vision was sought out. Like you mentioned, LaKeena, there's been criticism, and rightfully so at times, of this ownership in years past. We won't get into it too much here during the segment, but her lasting impact and legacy throughout the Bears organization and throughout the NFL will be felt forever. And I'm sure the NFL will do the right thing and give her a moment of silence this Sunday right before the big game.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Coach Kyle, LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you. And I know she was like close to a lot of the players. I know Jared, our buddy Jared Payton, for WGN, he's down there. He's been down there all week, covering the Super Bowl for them. I know he shared a story of how his dad, he was very close to the family, and I know I heard Tom Thayer, if you saw the special yesterday, kind of like like I think he had a really good connection with a lot of the players, both even with today's players. So it's interesting that she is one of those one of those folks that kind of like she got it, she kind of got it, and look, she was around this stuff her whole life, practically. So I think she kind of knew what the sort of thing is and whatnot. I'm sure look, she would love, like you said, Sid. I mean, she did kind of pave the way for female ownership for the NFL and other major sports, and I think she definitely could be remembered for that. I mean, you can kind of say that some things, like, yeah, you can say that on the side of football side of it, you can probably say, okay, let's but again, I mean, let's remember like a lot of the good stuff that she did too.
Yeah, and speaking of NFL females and NFL ownership, as of 2022, of the late Virginia McCaskey was one of 10 female owners in the National Football League, which includes Sheila Ford Hump of the Detroit Lions, Amy Adams Strunk of the Tennessee Titans, Kim Pagula of the Buffalo Bills, Miss Carol Davis of Las Vegas Raiders, Denise Bartolo York of the San Francisco 49ers, Gail Benson of the New Orleans Saints, Miss Janice McNair of the Houston Texans, Jody Allen of the Seattle Seahawks, and Dee Haslam of the Cleveland Browns. And in 2 years ago now, she was named as a semifinalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You would think now with her passing that that Miss McCaskey will finally get in as a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, with some of these, LaKeena, unfortunately they had to. These voters wait until the person dies and then give them their flowers. Why can't we do it while they're alive? I'm just saying.
Well, we'll get to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in a second, because I think the way I know some people. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where you can probably say that she can probably get it through the Veterans Committee, but even then, especially the way they've kind of changed things around, it's going to get a little bit harder now. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of lobbying from a lot of the former Bears players who are in the Hall of Fame already. That there might be some they're saying going to be lobbying for her to perhaps maybe accelerate it and get her in there. Maybe the sooner the better, but. we'll have to wait and see there. But yeah, I mean, look, again, leaving the stuff aside, yeah, you can criticize her for some of the stuff that she could have done better, or maybe should have done better in terms of players, coaches, and the way the family just runs its business. But I think what's going to be interesting too is the fact that how will things go on moving forward? Will it be business as usual? Will there be some changes made, or will there be changes in ownership? So yeah, I think that question needs to be I think people are going to be start asking questions. They already are doing it now.
Yeah, the McCaskey family still owns 80% of the team and the 20%. I know you mentioned some people question that. Will that group finally take over for the team? How will that process begin? We don't know. We'll find that out through the days, weeks, months, or perhaps maybe even years ahead. But I was watching an interview on Fox 32 last night with our guy Luke Canellis. He interviewed Dan Hampton, and Dan Hampton talked about how Miss McCaskey used to travel with the team on the road, and she used to attend every home game until the last few years. And Dan talked about how her personality rubbed up on the players. She really knew her stuff when it came to football. She wasn't just a quote unquote cheerleader. She knew her stuff, and she knew every player's name by number and by full name. And she really cared about the players' families, both on and off the field. And so you could tell he got a little bit emotional about that. For those of you that missed the interview, just go to Fox 32 Chicago's YouTube page and check out the full 6-minute interview with him and Luke Canellis. It was a great interview. So Miss McCaskey, her legacy is her personality being rubbed up on the whole organization. Like you said, LaKeena, she's experienced a lot through living through 102 years, so we should pay homage to that alone. A whole lot of wisdom, a whole lot of knowledge, and just a whole lot of life experience that you cannot buy. You had to go through the trials and tribulations to appreciate it coming out on the other side. That's just life in general. So for all that knowledge, for all that experience, we should just pay homage to that period.
And of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to the rest of the McCaskey family and the Bears organization. Now let's get to stuff on the field. Well, we'll get to the Super Bowl stuff later, but we'll also but right now we're gonna after this break we're gonna talk some NBA as the Bulls stand pat. For the most part, of course, after the Zach trade. Some comments by AK have some Bulls fans perplexed, and some trades that didn't happen have some NBA fans perplexed. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports. On Sports in Chicago, we'll go do some NBA talk and try to explain some of the AK's comments coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to the hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
As we dive into the Chicago Bulls and the NBA, you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Off to more trades we go here as we'll start with what didn't happen was that more trades for the Bulls as they stand pat after getting rid of Zach LaVine and that contract and AK Arturas Karnisovas's comments that kind of left a lot of Bulls fans, especially our buddies over at CHU, well, particularly our buddy Matt Peck, a little perplexed and flummoxed, I guess, whatever words you want to use, because I guess AK went on this little thing about, well, we had to get rid of Zach was something that we didn't want to do, and then we heard Vooch's comments right before the trade deadline. He was hearing that he was going to stay. So, and that ended up happening. So, it's kind of like just a lot of confusion all around. And, I don't think any of us were surprised. I mean, I know there were rumors that Kobe White might be moved there. I think there were some trades there. I know that the Warriors, apparently they wanted Vooch, but then they changed their minds. And, so then they got back to the table again because they changed their minds again. So it's kind of like weird how all that kind of shook out. But, Sid, were you surprised? Were you not surprised?
I wasn't really surprised, to be honest with you, LaKeena. We said this for the last 3 years with this Bulls organization. Pick a lane, set a direction, and stick to it. Looks like they have set a direction on rebuilding, but the way they're going about it, I still doing the Jordan shrug. Like, do you set a plan, but do you know how to go about it the right way? And with Nikolai Vucevic situation, that he's having, and I'm not going to sit here and say a career year, but he's having a better year than he did last year. I know he struggled over the last month in terms of shooting from the outside, especially from three-point land at 30%. But, the old saying, strike while the iron's hot, and the Bulls, for whatever reason, didn't want to do that. We talked about the Zach LaVine trade on our last show on Monday, where the Bulls held on to him, in my opinion, a little bit too long, thinking they were going to get something better. And they got what they deserved, and they got their pit back. And so there you go. But with the players like Lonzo Ball, who they chose to resign to 2 years at $20 million, congratulations to Lonzo Ball. But for the Bulls organization picking a lane in rebuilding, was that really the smart move? Is Lonzo Ball really part of the future? Me personally, I don't think so. We're same thing with Nikolai Vucevic. Well, we're going to try to trade him over the summer. Are you really going to get that value? That think that you're going to get that value that you want, that you probably could have had right now at the trade deadline? We actually sit here on February the 7th. The reason why guard packs are not here is because they overvalue their players. It looks like AK and Mark Evans here, they're heading down the same road. And if that's the case, this rebuild is going to be a little bit longer than what the Bulls fans expect. And if that's the case, that's real sad.
Well, but also remember too, I would say that this should make Bulls fans a little bit better. That signing with Lonzo is the second year is an option, and there's a lot of incentives. So I think for people that are saying, oh my God, 2 years, 20 million, oh my God, that's a lot of money. But no, it's a lot of incentives attached to that, and also the second year is an option, so they can pick up the option if they want, or he can decline the option if he wants. So allow Josh to make Bulls fans a little bit easier in that respect. Now, as far as some of the other trades, the Clippers trade Terrence Mann and Bones Highland to the Hawks for Bogdan Bogdanovic and 3 second-round picks. Atlanta, they trade DeAndre Hunter to the Cavs for Karis LeVert, George Niang, 3 second-round picks and a couple of pick swaps for this year. Meanwhile, the Suns are drinking Yusuf Nurkic, and that next year's first round pick to the Hornets for Cody Martin, Bill Veselovich, Mitchich, and a 2026 second round pick. And see some of the other ones here. Davion Mitchell to the Heat for PJ Tucker. And of course, probably one of the bigger trades. I guess we finally got an ending to the Jimmy Butler saga. Well, actually, first we'll say the Lakers. They pulled off a trade. They trade Dalton Kenneth, Cam Reddish, and a 2031 unprotected first rounder and a 2030 pick swap to the Hornets for Mark Williams, who is a big center for the Hornets. And the Jimmy Butler saga is finally over with. Praise Lord Jesus. He goes to Golden State. He also signed. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'm gonna I'm already picturing Jimmy. Jimmy goes to Golden State. Andrew Wiggins, he goes to Miami, and that trade a couple other picks. And I can only imagine what those practices are going to be like between Butler and Draymond. That should be interesting. And Brendan Ingram, of course, his name's being thrown around for various things. He's going to Toronto for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, first round and a second rounder. So yeah, the Jimmy Butler thing is going to be interesting because I would love to see what the practice are going to be like once Draymond. I know Draymond's been hurt, so he should be back soon. But yeah, once he starts practicing again, that's going to be interesting to say the least.
I think the Bulls play the Warriors tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep, they do.
Yeah, hopefully Jimmy Butler will play in that game, so we'll see what happens with that. You mentioned Draymond Green, who's been injured. He played in the game last night against the Lakers, in which they lost. We'll get to that in just a second. But as far as the actual Jimmy Butler trade, I think this is good for the Warriors. There will be competitive. Jimmy Butler will bring that certain edge to that Warriors team. Let's be honest here. He's a very good scorer, and as we talked about before, LaKeena, Steph Curry, you don't have to depend on him to give you a heroic performance every night. Jimmy Butler will take some of that pressure off of him in terms of scoring. And Draymond Green, he has a different edge about him now. So him and Jimmy Butler would be the table setters as far as the Warriors, what they want to do defensively. So I think it's good right there. Are they a championship team? No, but I think they can, even if they do get into a play-in tournament and win, I think they can surprise some people by winning a round. But that's about it because of the Western Conference is so competitive. Now with that New Orleans Toronto trade, I don't know what the hell both those teams are doing. I thought Brandon Ingram will go to a team like Houston or New York, a team like that that's trying to get over the hump and get to the playoffs. I don't understand that. And someone explain that to me, and I'll leave it at that. Cleveland, they're bolstering up their front line. I like that move. So Cleveland they're going for it. They're sending the message to the rest of the Eastern Conference, including the Boston Celtics. We are the team to beat. We're going to be here for the long haul, provided they stay healthy. So Cleveland, I like what they did, and of course with the Phoenix Suns, they had to get rid of somebody. They couldn't get rid of Kevin Durant, and so they had to get rid of somebody. They are over the salary cap, so they had to make some moves to clear some of that space. So with the trade deadline passing, there was a bunch of moves that were made. I don't remember a trade deadline in recent memory that had these many big impact moves. Have you? Because I don't remember these. Usually you had that one big trade and that's it. But we had the Luka Doncic trade. And of course, we had the Jimmy trade. And of course, the secondary trade. I don't remember these many big moves around the trade deadline. If you know a trade deadline that had these many big moves, please let me know, because I don't remember in so much a short of a time these many big moves.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most I can see, and at least if we want to go all the way back to the 70s and 80s here, I don't know if we can go that far, but I think in recent memory, not really. I mean, yes, you could probably get like a big trade that kind of makes sense, and it's kind of interesting like how all this sort of kind of shook out and such with the Luka and AD trade that literally shook the sports world. Then you had this Jimmy Butler trade to Miami for Wiggins and a few others. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of gonna be interesting to see how all this sort of kind of shakes out and such. The rumor is that they're gonna try to maybe perhaps have Lakers gonna try to have Luka make his debut on Monday. That's gonna be interesting. And we know, of course, Jimmy Butler. I know there have been rumors that maybe he might play tomorrow against the Bulls, one of his former teams. So that's going to be another thing that might add some intrigue here. So yeah, I don't think you've seen it. I think the way it's set up, I know some folks were probably wondering like if this guy was around or if that guy was around, would these trades have not even taken place? But it is what it is in today's NBA. So at least it got people buzzing about it, which a lot of people weren't buzzing about it, and even folks that were kind of like, man, the NBA. I think this woke up a lot of folks.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you on the hashtag Football Friday. We're diving into Bulls and NBA talk. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can hit us up as Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. Let's go to last night's action. Of course, the rematch from last year's NBA Finals. The Mavericks get the best of the Boston Celtics, 127-120. The Minnesota Timberwolves, who defeated the Chicago Bulls on Wednesday. They win their second game in a row, beating the Houston Rockets 127-114. The Denver Nuggets blow out the Orlando Magic 112-90. The Lakers they hold on to beat the Golden State Warriors 120-112. The Lakers were up big. The Warriors made a big charge and comeback, but the Lakers held them off. The Trailblazers, winners of 9 of their last 11. LaKeena, they're only 6 games under 500. They beat the Sacramento Kings 108-102. And the Indiana Pacers get the best of the LA Clippers, who had a tough week this week, losing to the Lakers on Tuesday. They lose again at home last night to the Indiana Pacers, 119-112.
Siakam had 33 points there. That 41 points from Ant and Anthony Edwards. He's the first player NBA history to score 90-plus points, make 30-plus free throws, and hit 10-plus threes in over a span of 2 days. I'll tell you why that's the case. In fact, because he did the same thing to Chicago, as I mentioned prior, 49 points, which is among a career high for him. So that's why they were able to got the best of the Bulls there in that game. So he's been playing very well, probably making a little late push for making a little push into the MVP discussion. We'll see about that. Dallas got a nice win. I know that boosts morale more than anything. I know Jason Tatum didn't have his best shooting night last night. So, but I don't think if you're Boston, you shouldn't be too worried about that right now. I know you're trying to keep up with Cleveland. I know Cleveland just made a trade. You made made a minor deal. So we'll see what happens there. Now go into Wednesday's games. There was a low schedule. Denver, no trouble with the Pelicans. OKC just hammering the Suns. SGA have 50 points, was among a career high for this season anyway. Franz Wagner had 31 as Orlando beat Sacramento. Sacramento not playing very well lately. Utah and Golden State, they edged him out there thanks to 31 from Jordan Clarkson. Memphis beat Toronto. Miami over Philadelphia. Washington over Brooklyn. San Antonio, thanks to a late jumper by Wemby with a few seconds left, they beat the Hawks. Cleveland.
Everybody knows it's Wemby.
Yes. And Cleveland edged out Detroit and Milwaukee. Thanks to 29 from Dame, got the best of the Hornets.
Yeah, it looks like quietly the Milwaukee Bucks are trying to make their way back into the top spot in the Eastern Conference. You mentioned Cleveland, Boston are ahead of them. The Warriors finally won a game, LaKeena. Let's go celebrate. I think it's only their 7th victory of the year, if I'm not mistaken. They own the worst record in the NBA. I know De'Aaron Fox and getting to the San Antonio Spurs. And now I'm not saying that they're a definite playoff team, but I think they just entered the conversation of improving, trying to get out of that 7 to 10 play-in spot. So we'll see what happens with the Spurs. The Miami Heat, you figure that they're relieved now that the Jimmy Butler is no longer in their locker room. We'll see how Eric Spoelstra galvanize that group. Can Miami hang on to a playoff spot? We shall see. They're battling with the Pistons and Milwaukee. And of course, the Bulls, they still hanging around that number 10 in that play-in tournament spot. So we'll see what happens with the Heat. In the Memphis Grizzlies, as you mentioned, with their victory the other night north of the border, John Morant made his return from injury. So if he can stay healthy and Zach Edey can patrol that middle and Jaren Jackson Jr., who's an all-star for them this year, if those 3 guys can stay healthy, Memphis could be a very dangerous team come playoff time.
Yes, they can. So we'll see what happens. I think keeping Ja healthy is going to be the most important thing. The rest of the season, Tuesday's games, you got Portland over Indiana. Anthony Simons had 22. LeBron had 26 as the Lakers no trouble with the Clippers. The Bulls beat the Heat, 24 points from Josh Giddey. And the Knicks, they had to hold off the Raptors by 6. Brooklyn with a mild upset over Houston. Keon Johnson at 22 there. 22 points for Jason Tatum as the Celtics beat the Cavs. And Philadelphia edged out Dallas, 33 points from Tyrese Maxey.
Let's go back to that Bulls Miami game for just a second, LaKeena. Let's give a shout out to Matas Buzelis, the Bulls rookie, who will be in the slam dunk contest next Saturday night in San Francisco. He had the game of all games, 10 of 10 shooting, including 4 for 4 from 3-point range, which totaled to 24 points. He also had 2 rebounds and 4 assists. He had the game of all games. The Bulls as a team had a game of all games. As we said before, throughout the season, if they shoot the 3-point ball at 45% or better, they usually win. Most of the time they shot it at a 46% clip. The Miami Heat ran out of gas in the late stages of the game. The Bulls were hot. They stayed hot, led by Buzelis, and that was one of the reasons why they won that game. The Bulls also shot the ball well overall at 52%. So as we'll see, the team is made up now with here, Zach no longer here, and Lonzo Ball getting increasingly some playing time now that he's finally fully healthy. And so we'll see what this Bulls team is made of. Will you give more playing time to Julian Phillips? Will you get more playing time for Martez Buzelis, which I think you will now since Zach is no longer there? And Josh Giddey, will he finally start to be more consistent, especially on the offensive end? Will his confidence return? So a lot of questions for this Bulls team going forward between now and at the end of the season.
Yeah, Buzelis is the first rookie to go perfect. 10 for 10 from for the field goal, 4 for 4 from 3-point range, and just a kind of like one of those things where like it's a rarity that something like that happens in the NBA. So good for him, and you can only say like confidence wise is going to be huge for them. So we'll see what happens, because it's going to be kind of interesting, like you said, with Zach. Now Zach's no longer there. Who's going to be? Is it going to be Rouge? Is it going to be Kobe? Is it going to be Io? So that's really going to be the key for the Bulls if they, again, if they want to try to hang on to that 10 spot, much to the chagrin of I know some Bulls fans. So we'll see.
Yep, we'll see. Monday's results of the Pacers get by the Jazz 112-111 as the Pacers continue on their West Coast road trip. The Warriors get by the Magic. The Trailblazers beat the Suns by 2 in overtime. The Grizzlies blow out the Spurs by 19. The Thunder destroyed the Bucks 125-96. Giannis and Dame Dollar did not play in that one. The Kings got by the Timberwolves. The Knicks defeated the Rockets in a good contest at MSG 124-118. The Hawks beat the Pistons by 2. And the Wizards won their second game this week. They started off the week beating the Hornets by 10, 124-114.
Yeah, 42 points for Jalen Brunson. That Knicks win over Houston and Minnesota. I think they started off their streak there. I think they lost a tough one. That tough one. DeMar had 33 points, which is which is the most he scored since joining the Kings. So it's gonna be interesting to see if they can kind of try to get things going. I know Minnesota. I know Anthony Edwards didn't have his best shooting performance in that game. That's probably one of the reasons why the Kings were able to pull it out. Mm-hmm. So, but like I said, after that, it's been basically all at the last couple of games. So, look, I'm not. I think the Western Conference is going to be like murderer's row there. There are going to be a lot of teams going to be playing each other these next, as AK would say, 30 games. It's going to be interesting to see how everything kind of will there be some shakeups? Will some teams emerge and such? So this is when it gets a little bit interesting, especially after the All-Star break next weekend.
Yeah, I want to ask you about a couple of teams. We'll start out with the Minnesota Timberwolves. It looks like they're finally catching and starting. And Julius Randle is now hurt again. He'll be reevaluated in a couple of weeks. You mentioned Anthony Edwards has to do it all by himself. The Wolves are currently 6 games over 500 now with the setback with Julius Randle. Are you worried about them? They, in my opinion, they still kind of a playing team. They're not a top 6 team. We talked about them early in the year with them struggling, trying to find their identity, find their chemistry, especially between Randall and Evers. Now with Julius Randle being hurt again, I think this sets them back a little bit, and uh, the Timberwolves have to be careful not to put too much on the shoulders of Anthony Edwards. You mentioned with his top performances this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Minnesota will they have to try to maybe find an answer. Of course, if Randall can't come back anytime soon, you hope that Ant doesn't wear himself out. I mean, that's gonna be the key here if you wanna, especially if you want the look. I don't know if they're gonna go to the Western Conference Finals again, but they're gonna need somebody to kind of help out Ant. Now, again, they pulled off the somewhat mild upset against the Rockets, so we'll see. But yeah, guys like Naz Reid. I know Naz Reid had a nice showing, but it was a game that they lost earlier this week. Rudy Gobert needs to show up a little bit more, on the point side. I know Jalen Clark had 17 off the bench in that win against Houston. I think guys need to kind of step up a little bit. I know Terrence Shannon Jr. I know this is really not his game. I know he's only a rookie from Illinois, but he can kind of help out a little bit. So they need a lot of the supporting cast to help and out, especially if it looks like Randall's going to be out for a bit.
Yeah, we'll see what happens going forward with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So another team that I want to discuss before we get to the schedule for this weekend is the Los Angeles Lakers. We thought that Luka was going to make his debut tomorrow against the Indiana Pacers, which ESPN picked up that game. It looks like Luka's Lakers debut will be now set for Monday against the Utah Jazz. So, Ken, I want to ask you, with the moves that the Los Angeles Lakers have made throughout through the past week leading up to Thursday's trade deadline, do you think that Rob Pelinka has bought some extra time with his job? And number two, do you think that they're a play-in team or a top 6 playoff team?
I gotta see how they look. How Luka looks. Playing with LeBron first. I think to make kind of assumptions is not isn't fair to anybody. So I would think I want to see how Luka does with LeBron. It looks like so far with Luka being there, I mean they've actually been playing pretty well. So we'll see if they can kind of. Do I think Pelinka brought himself some time? Yeah, but like I said, I need to see Luka and LeBron, how they play together, how the rest of that cast plays together. Because the rest of the cast members are going to have to step up a little bit too, because we know LeBron's probably going to be taking some games off, especially later in the season. So they're going to have to, Luka's going to have to do his thing, but other guys got to show up too.
Yeah, in particular, Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, both those guys, we thought one of them or both of them were going to get traded. Then they did not get traded. So both those guys will have the heavy load to carry LeBron and Luka once he makes his debut. I'm talking about Luka once he makes his debut, we assume next week against the Utah Jazz. Eventually, I agree with you that Rob Pelinka has bought himself some extra time, but eventually that Lakers team, they did get their big man via the trade from the Charlotte Hornets on Thursday, but eventually that team is going to need a point guard, and D'Angelo Russell is just not cutting it. I know he had a good stretch last year, and he's been hit and miss at times throughout his time as this is his second tour as a Los Angeles Laker. But eventually, that team is going to need a point guard. But with them trading away Anthony Davis last weekend, they were one of the best defensive teams in the league. And now they're one of the worst. Now, since they picked up a big man, Charlotte Hornets trade, we'll see what this team looks like defensively. I'm with you. I want to see how Luka and LeBron play it together once Luka makes his debut next week. I think it's going to be a telling tale of what this Lakers team does going forward. Now, do I believe they're a playoff team instead of a play-in team? Yes, but this team is not ready to compete for a championship this year. Can you tell me right now that they're better than OKC? No. Are they better than Houston? No. Are they better than Minnesota? No. Even though Minnesota's been up and down this year. So even though they defeated this team the other night, are they better than the Los Angeles Clippers? Despite what happened this past Tuesday? No.
Gonna be interesting to see what shakes out there as these players make their debuts with their new teams coming up. With this weekend schedule, of course, with the Super Bowl, going to be a short schedule. We'll start tonight. You got the Spurs and the Hornets at 6. You got Cleveland and Washington. Break out the Wizards, folks. They've won 2 in a row. Milwaukee and Atlanta at 6:30. You got Miami and Brooklyn. You got the lone ESPN game for Friday. You got Philadelphia and Detroit. Toronto and OKC, and Utah and Phoenix. We'll see if Phoenix can get back on track after a tough week.
Tomorrow, Saturday, your schedule are as follows. The Houston Rockets will take on the Dallas Mavericks. Hopefully, Anthony Davis will make his home debut in the Dallas Mavericks uniform. That's at 2 o'clock. At 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN, without Luka Doncic, LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers will host the Indiana Pacers. Other games that are following on Saturday. San Antonio will visit Orlando. Atlanta will visit our nation's capital to take on the Washington Wizards. Golden State, Steph Curry will roll into town to take on the Bulls at the United Center. Hopefully, Jimmy Butler will follow with him. Oklahoma City will take on Memphis. Portland will face Minnesota. Boston and the New York Knicks will be a Saturday night game of the week on ABC. Denver will face Phoenix, New Orleans at Sacramento, and the Utah Jazz will take on the Los Angeles Clippers in the new Intuit Dome.
That should be interesting with Boston and New York. Be the Saturday night game of the week. That should be interesting. Sunday, of course, is also Super Bowl Sunday because these are all early games. So note the start times. Noon, you got Charlotte and Detroit. At 1 o'clock, you got Toronto and Houston. And the ABC Sunday afternoon game of the week at 1, you got Philadelphia and Milwaukee. We'll see if Embiid plays, and then we'll see if Dame and Giannis both play as well.
And salute to Hubie Brown. That'll be his final broadcast as the NBA broadcaster for ESPN and the ABC. That'll be his last game on Sunday. So salute to him broadcasting. So hopefully ESPN sends him out in style with his final broadcast.
Let's hope that game is actually a good game, and for him to go out. Because I know he's called some of these games way back in the day for CBS.
Yes.
So salute to him. And 91 years young, Bonnie wants to call it a career. Good for him, and should be a fun. Like I said, hopefully it's a fun, entertaining game as he goes out into the sunset. That is the schedule for this weekend in the NBA.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports continues on the hashtag Football Friday with our girl, Miss Christine the Queen Manika. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. You're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my King McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
We're about to dive into our coverage of the big game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles with prop bets, storylines. Do you even care about the game? What do you do for your Super Bowl parties? All that little fun stuff in this half hour. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. Christine Manika or KXRB will be joining us in just a couple of minutes here. But let's get to the actual previews of this game down there in New Orleans between the Chiefs and the Eagles. And what's going to be interesting here is that I think if you're the Eagles, you want to try and set the tone early. Especially, I know Jalen Carter's been feeling under the weather the last couple of days. So we'll see if he can, he should be good to go for Sunday. And I think if you're, if you're Nick Sirianni, you want to try perhaps maybe, see if you can set that tone and you can kind of get that going right away. And it's, this is going to be where it is. I mean, you don't want to, you don't want the Chiefs to set the tone early because if you do, they're going to run away. You don't want the game to run away from you too quick. So if you're, the Eagles, you want to try to set the tone early, give the ball to Saquon as much as possible. Try to keep Mahomes and the rest of that offense for the Chiefs off the field, and just after that, just kind of just try to get things going, and perhaps maybe run the ball down their throats.
Yeah, we all know that what Philadelphia is going to do offensively. We had to run the ball with Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, who's had a good year, not an MVP type year. We all know that he's very effective when Saquon Barkley is effective. It makes Jalen Hurts that much more dangerous, but I want to piggyback off your point about Nick Sirianni setting the tone defensively for Philadelphia. Who's going to be that spy on Patrick Mahomes? We all know that Kansas City has an effective running game. It's not going to scare you off the charts, but they have Isaiah Pacheco, who's been injured off and on all year. You still have Kareem Hunt, and those two guys can run the ball effectively, but it all starts with that man, Patrick Mahomes, number 15. Who's going to be that spy on that Philadelphia Eagles defense to spy on Mahomes to perhaps slow him down? I think that's going to be the key for that Philadelphia defense. Offensively, we all know that the Philadelphia Eagles have the best offensive line in the NFL, led by Lane Johnson, number 65. I know they had a couple of injuries that they suffered on that line from the NFC title game against the Commanders. We'll see if those guys are healed up enough in time for Sunday. If that's the case, we all know that Chiefs defensive line is very good, led by Chris Jones. Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo is one of the best, if not the best, D coordinator in the game right now. I'm interested to see for that matchup it all starts down in the trenches. That Chiefs defensive line against the Eagles offensive line. I think that's going to set the tone what happens on Sunday.
All right. Okay, we'll give her a couple of minutes to set up here. We got our girl Christine Manika from KXRB on deck. We'll give her another minute or two to set up. But yeah, I think if you're the Chiefs, you want to try to Xavier Worthy, who's the dynamic wide receiver from Texas. I know there's going to be a lot of speed and such with him and Darius Slay. He's going to be going to have the task of trying to guard him. You don't want him to kind of be sort of like that X factor in the game. So if you're kind of that secondary for the Eagles, you want to try to kind of slow him down. And of course, it'll be just to see like who will be guarding, Travis Kelce. I know, his age is starting to show a little bit. I'm talking about Kelce, but you can kind of, see if you're like in that secondary for the Chiefs, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Blankenship. I mean, those are the kind of guys. Even Cooper DeJean too. I mean, don't be surprised if he isn't up there with Kelce. So yeah, it's gonna kind of be interesting how like this sort of like all sort of manifests and stuff. That secondary is gonna be a good matchup between the Chiefs receivers.
Yeah, as you mentioned with Travis Kelce, he had a couple of catches in the AFC title game went over to Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. Will he be a non-factor, or will he be a big part of the Chiefs' offensive game plan? I think personally he's going to be involved a little bit more in that game plan that you mentioned with the Eagles linebacking core. They are very good, but I think Travis Kelce, you had to get him involved early if you're the Chiefs. Now, flipping over to the other side of the ball, with Jalen Hurts, if Saquon Barkley could get it going, especially with the Chiefs, they're going to try and stack an 8-9 man front to stop him. Jalen Hurts, he's going to use his legs, and hopefully that Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, will get Jalen Hurts out in the pocket, do some quarterback bootlegs, and if that's the case, look for Dallas Goedert to have a very good game there, start tight end. We all know that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are the star wide receivers on both the roaming the outside, but if Jalen Hurts is used right, I think Dallas Goedert, their tight end, is going to have a big day.
All right, let's get her on here. We only got her for a little bit, so we got let's get it right here. She is our girl, your girl, our weekend girl from KXRB in Super Bowl, South Dakota, Mrs. Christine the Queen Manika. Hey, Christine.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. It's never ending.
That's all right. Like, look, it happens. Like, I think we're all having one of those days for Friday. So, what are you? Yeah. So, what are you looking forward to in this Super Bowl 59 down in New Orleans between the Chiefs and the Eagles?
I love the culture down there in New Orleans. They just have a different type of flair and a style to them. And I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a big old Mardi Gras party before Mardi Gras even comes to town. And it should be a very good game. Both of these teams are pretty evenly matched when it comes to just their skill sets, some better than others. But I predict that this could be a pretty close game.
Do you expect this game to be a high scoring game or a low defensive scoring game?
No, I think it's going to be a big defensive battle between both of these teams. In fact, I think I said today, I think it's going to be like a 19-17, a 20-23, something like that.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I think that's kind of the range I'm thinking. Maybe 28, 24 or something like that. I mean, nothing like super, super high, which
right.
I think, so I think it might be, like I said, I think it's really going to just depend on like who sets the tone, or like we were saying earlier. Who do you think is going to be the X factors with on Sunday?
I think the X factors, and he's been shown a lot of it during the postseason play. It's Dallas Goedert. You mentioned him right away, Sid, and he's a South Dakota kid. I know a lot of the fans here are excited to see him take on the big stage again. Saquon Barkley, of course, is going to be another big factor. A.J. Brown, they're going to try to get him a little bit more reps. And more importantly, I think Jalen Hurts is going to be a big factor for them too. It's all about if he can beat Spagnuolo, if Jalen Hurts and his O-line can beat Spagnuolo. When it comes to the Chiefs side, I do think that Kelce will be used more. I think Mahomes is going to do his best to scramble out of the pocket just because of the defense on the Eagles. And then I could see, Isaiah Pacheco having a big game. And we haven't really been hearing a lot about him this past postseason. So he's up for a big game probably.
Even though it hasn't been much headlines stirred up this week down there in New Orleans leading up to this big game, are you in the camp of Kansas City Chiefs fatigue and rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles, or do you appreciate greatness while you're witnessing it in real time?
Of course, I appreciate it. Like, it would be very massive if the Chiefs do win. On the other side of it, I think the Eagles have had just more of a stable season as opposed to the Chiefs. And what I mean by that is that their wins are pretty straightforward, where the Chiefs have had to work for it all season. They've had their own struggles throughout the season, and they just aren't, obviously they're in the Super Bowl, but they're a good team, but they're just not as strong as they were the last couple of years when they've been in this position.
Well, and this is sort of like for a lot of these guys, it's going to be, for guys like Saquon, this is going to be his first time, in the Super Bowl. But for some of these
Yeah.
guys, but for a lot of the others, it's going to be, look, this is his, Jalen Hurts is his second, AJ Brown his second, a lot of that defense. Brendan Graham could be a big factor too. Remember, he hasn't played the last 6 weeks, with the tricep injury. So now he's gonna be back there too. So he could be. Remember, he made that big play against Tom Brady. The Eagles won their first Super Bowl there. So yeah, I think this experience might. I know some people say, well, the Chiefs have more experience. Well, the Eagles do too, because they were just there a couple of years ago. So only a couple of guys that are
Yeah.
going to get their first time. So experience could be a factor, but again, Eagles also have experience too.
Now let's head over to another area that not too many people are talking about, and it's special teams. Christine, do you see a kickoff return, or punt return, or maybe a forced fumble from either of these teams in the special teams department?
I can definitely more so see a forced fumble. I think with the new kickoff rules, it's a little bit harder to do big runs on those kickoff returns. A fumble, I think, is more likely for special teams on both sides.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's remember, they're going to be indoors, so weather is not going to be an issue. But
No.
yeah, but I mean, will we see a punt return? I think I saw somewhere. I think the punt return or kickoff return for a TD, I think it's like a plus like 150 or something like that. So if you want to make some money, early money in the Super Bowl, that's one of the prop bets to make. So, but yeah, we'll get to some of the prop bets in a second and such. But I mean, I think sort of for me, I wouldn't be surprised if could we see a pick six, or like you guys said, well, could we see a scoop and score for a TD? For something like that? Could it be like a last second, field goal or something? Because it's got to be something we haven't seen. I mean, we saw with the overtime last year with the Chiefs over the 49ers. So are we going to see anything different? Because we've seen a lot of great moments in the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Let's remember that, folks.
Yep, especially with the Patriots and Rams in that 2001 season, when the Patriots upset the Rams on the last second field goal. And of course, the 85 Bears, what they did against the Patriots back in January of 86. And of course, the 49ers blowing out the Denver Broncos in the 89 Super Bowl down in New Orleans. So as LaKeena said, many great memories in that city of New Orleans, hosting those Super Bowls throughout the years. You listen to the Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Seeing LaKeena here with it. Before we get to our prop bets and our predictions for the big game on Sunday, Christine, let's get your thoughts on Miss Virginia Hallis McCaskey passing away yesterday at the age of 102. She was a trailblazer and an icon for not just for the Chicago Bears franchise, but for the whole National Football League. Give us your thoughts.
Well, overall, that she's a pioneer for women in sports. Before she took over for her father, no one has ever heard of a woman owner in the NFL or really in any professional sports. So for her to be the sole owner and to take on a historic organization like the Bears directly from her father, the man that started the NFL, one of them, it's a big task. And she took it with grace. I didn't realize she had so many kids. I knew that she had a lot of kids, but I didn't know it was that many. So I'm a big admirer of her for being a pioneer for women's sports, and more importantly, on a personal perspective, for her following her faith throughout her time being the owner. I'm a Catholic, so I relate to her in that sense, and I strive to live the way that she did in her profession, and I hope I can do that. So it's bittersweet that she passes away before the big game, before the Super Bowl. But what a life she lived, 102 years old. You can't be really too upset about that one. She's lived a remarkable life, and she went out by having the Packers lose to the Bears. So there's no better way that she could have planned it out. And more importantly, she's back with the love of her life here on Earth. So a great woman overall, whether it was professionally or outside the Bears organization.
Just to follow up on that, do you think this leads to? I know some people are already, been wondering, will they bring back the honey bears because apparently she's the reason why they haven't had the honey bears in the last they're 35 or something like that years.
Yeah.
Or will they sell the? Will the family sell the team at some point? What do you think will happen?
I think it's more likely that they get the honey bears back over the McCaskey selling the team. They're not going to let go of it easily if they haven't done it already at this point. And it's their family's legacy. It's only right for them to continue that legacy through generations to come. Honey bears though would be awesome to see come back, because I know there really aren't many cheerleaders around Chicago sports, but that would be good to see.
Yeah, the only cheerleaders that you see as far as our local teams is, of course, the, these Chicago Bulls with the Lovables. One
Hmm.
more point with their process of trying to get a new stadium now, says Virginia McCaskey's voice will not be there because she's still gone. I'm going to get your take on that, Christine.
The stadium, I think we talked about this before Virginia's passing. Until something is really set in stone, I think it's just kind of words at this point. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, if there will be a new stadium, if there won't be a new stadium. They've made, announcements and purchases in regards to it, but nobody knows what that's all going to be for in the future. So I think for now, it's kind of a wait and see situation before people wonder what this potential new stadium is going to look like.
Could be interesting to see what happens there now. Well, before we get to the prop bets and such, 'cause I really want to get this in before we do that. The NFL, of course, they had the NFL Honors show last night. Snoop Dogg was, I guess I could say he was pretty solid. I mean, making fun of Bill Belichick's girlfriend's age. Yeah, that was just that was not
That had to happen.
yeah. And who better? And of course, Roger Goodell saying for shizzle. I think we may have to call somebody if we start smoking a bomb. We might have to call someone. I'm just saying, but some of the winners here, of course, not really too big surprise. I know Christine's guy, Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year. Saquon Barkley won Offensive Player of the Year. Patrick Surtain, the second one, Defensive Player of the Year. Of course, Jaden Daniels won 2 awards, one for Rookie of the Year, one for Best Play. Sorry, Bears fans, for that Hail Mary. Jared Verse, the pass rusher for the Rams, he won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Eric Armstead, of course, the veteran with the 49ers. He's now with the Jaguars. So he wins Man of the Year for his literacy program, a program that is some kind of program that helped him. So congrats to him there. Some years we'll get to the Hall of Famers in just a second here. Of course, no surprise, Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings head coach, won AP Coach of the Year. But probably one of the bigger surprises, I guess, if you could look at it, Josh Allen, not Lamar Jackson, wins NFL MVP. By about I think 10 votes. I think I saw there. There's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of division on Twitter X that on who probably should have won. What do you guys think, Christine? I'll start with you.
I feel very vindicated because I said around week 3, I'm like, Josh Allen's getting the MVP just by the way that he was playing this year. And yes, he had support from his team. Obviously, they wouldn't have gone as far as they did. But I think in regards to that, Lamar Jackson had a stronger O-line, had a stronger wide receiver group, stronger running back in Derrick Henry. So he had more weapons to work with, where Josh Allen was really kind of leading the team on his own for a good portion of the season. And like I said, James Cook is on there and a bunch of other guys too. But it was really Josh Allen that got them as far as what they did, I think. And furthermore, Lamar Jackson already has 2 MVPs. So I think it was time to get some new blood in there, and I'm very happy for Josh Allen. That doesn't mean that Lamar Jackson won't get another MVP because, again, he already has 2. It just shows that, Josh Allen's work is finally getting recognized for someone that didn't start in high school, was not a big pick in college, barely got drafted in the NFL. It's a good Cinderella story for Josh Allen, and a big full circle moment for him and his family. So it was great to see that.
Yeah, Christine just took the words right out of my mouth. We talked about it all season. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, both those quarterbacks were playing at their best, so they were the top 2 candidates for MVP. And it was a kind of, in my opinion, I'm sure for some voters, say it was a Lamar Jackson fatigue, and it was time for Josh Allen, somebody else different, to win. I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson won't be back next year or the year after competing for that award. Unless the Baltimore Ravens keep winning, he has another stellar year. He's going to be up there for MVP again. But I thought that Josh Allen, especially from November on, and which you mentioned, Christine, with the benefit of a running game from James Cook, he took his game to another level, and Buffalo really started to take off. So Josh Allen, congratulations to him for winning MVP.
Yeah, I mean, Go ahead, Christy. Sorry.
I was going to say, in relation to that, did you see that Tracy Wolfson leaked it out like 15 minutes early on Twitter?
The power of social media.
I know. I wanted to know if there was anything that was going to come out of that leak, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, that was weird. I thought she was hacked, but maybe because of the way they taped it. Cause I think it's taped. I think like about an hour before it's broadcast. Of course, it was broadcast on Fox since they got the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think that might have been why. I think it seemed like a leak, but it really wasn't, because it was happening in real time. So I know that's probably why she didn't get. She shouldn't have gotten in trouble for it anyway. So
she did take the tweet down though.
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, I think it was just one of those things where I think she just. I think she just saw. I think because it aired. I think because it was already on. I think it aired before, and so it really wasn't a leak per se. So that's probably why she gets a pass on that. So yeah, but it's fine. The Pro Football Hall of Fame only has 4, their smallest class since '05, and it's Eric Allen, Jared Allen, no relation, Antonio Gates, and Sterling Sharp. Now, I guess the way they kind of changed it up this year, whereas the 15 finalists were down to 7, and I guess they're gonna have the voters vote for their top 5, and I guess whoever gets 80%, they get in. So they kind of changed the voting up a little bit this year. That's why I hence the small class here. But I'm a little surprised that no Torrey Holt again, no Fred Taylor again, but. Luke Kuechly, I know some people thought that maybe he should have gotten in, but he only played for like 8 seasons. So if anything, I think Terrell Suggs probably has more of a beat than he does. And his numbers are very similar, and he's done a little bit longer. So what do you guys think?
I think it was a really nice moment between Shannon Sharp and Sterling Sharp. I loved watching that video of how it was revealed to him. He was at home, his wife, and she's like, "Oh yeah, your brother's downstairs," just very casual, and the emotion in Shannon's face. Besides watching him on TV, I have not seen that side of Shannon Sharp before. So it was just a great brother moment. And now them being the first brothers together in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I know everyone was kind of expecting Eli to get that position to share it with Peyton, but I'm sure he'll get in, if not, next year, the year before, the year after, I should say, at some point.
Yeah, I kind of with Christine again. She took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to bring up Eli Manning. Everybody thought he was going to headline this year's class, but I know you can look at some of his numbers. I'm talking about Eli, that it wasn't as great during the regular season. I know he was a 500 quarterback throughout his career, but he has 2 Super Bowl titles. He beat Brady head to head. I think he was MVP in both of them. So he has the numbers. Of course, his name is going to carry on, but like you said, Christine, he's going to get in next year or the year after. So it's not going to be too much longer before he gets in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's not too. You know how classy. He's not too upset. But I say, hey, look, it's not the end of the world. I didn't get in.
No.
I didn't get in. So look, folks, it's okay. I'm fine. Like I'm glad that he's taking the high road as he usually does. Now, get ready to feel old, folks. This is going to be some of the first timers for next year's class. Larry Fitzgerald, Drew Brees, Philip Rivers, Frank Gore, Jason Witten, Julian Edelman, Shady McCoy, Thomas Davis, Greg Olson, Alex Smith, and Todd Gurley. I'll just do some of the names because we're a little pressed for time because we got to get our picks. But yeah, what do you guys think? Think any of those guys make it next year first ballot, especially the way they kind of changed the thing up a little bit?
Drew Brees, I could see him getting in right away. And even Larry Fitzgerald, I think that would be a good name up there. The one that makes me feel old the most, so is Julian Edelman. I'm like, wow. I thought already.
I know, right? It's like, wait, did he just retire? But I guess he's got a very popular podcast. But yeah, he's up first year of eligibility is next year. So I'm like, really? Oh, good Lord. I think he'll get in eventually, but I think, like you said, Christy, I think add the names mentioned, I think that could get in next year as first ballot is Fitzgerald and Drew Brees, I think.
Yeah, I'll go with those two, and hopefully Philip Rivers, if he doesn't join that class next year, I think he'll be in the Eli Manning category. It won't be too long before he gets into the Hall of Fame. I'm talking about Philip Rivers. I know he didn't play in the Super Bowl, but his numbers are just as comparable as Eli Manning's in the quarterbacks he played against in that era.
He did. But probably say he did it for longer too, if you don't want to use that term. So gonna be interesting there. So okay, guys, it's finally time. I know we right a little pressed for time for Christine, but excuse me. Your Super Bowl picks and MVP. Christine, I'll start with you.
I'm picking the Eagles, and for MVP, if it's the Eagles that win, or maybe not, it kind of depends. I would say Saquon Barkley gets that MVP. If not, it would be Mahomes. But yeah, Saquon Barkley.
Okay, Christine's going with the obvious one. I am picking the Eagles to win. Well, what's your final score, Christine? I know you say you expect to be a low-scoring game, but
yeah, I'm going to stick with what I said earlier today, 19-17.
Okay. I can definitely see that. My winner will be the Philadelphia Eagles, and my MVP. And I'm going a little bit out of the box here. I'll pick, if he plays on Sunday, which I think he will, Jalen Carter.
Oh, all right. Go ahead, defense. Haven't done that in a while, picking a defensive guy. All right. I also, look at the sweep. I also have the Eagles. I'm going to stick to my score, 28-24. And I'll say Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts will probably have his best showing. I think this is going to be a time he'll have his best stats of his career. He'll probably throw for like 3 touchdowns, or probably maybe even rush for one. Maybe through the Philly special, and they'll have their own version of it. And I think he wins MVP. So it should be a good one there. Now, real quick, I know we're up against, I know Christy, I know she has to jet, but some of the prop bets for the Super Bowl, of course, Kendrick Lamar, of course, fresh off his 5 Grammys in last weekend's Grammy Awards. Of course, Not Like Us, of course, at which one both record and song of the year is the favorite to be the last song at plus 550. The first song will be, some people are saying that maybe two from his original albums, like Mad City from his second studio album, or I from his third studio album. I think I prefer the latter on that one. The Gatorade color, I think the odds for it is the yellow and orange. Both those are the same at plus. Well, one's at minus 130 and one's like one at minus 10. But if you want to go green Gatorade, that's at the plus 350. So that's some of the prop bets. So you guys, any prop bets you guys want to share real quick?
I think it could be red Gatorade.
No, go ahead. What do you say, Christine?
Oh, I said red Gatorade could be it. That's my pick. They haven't done it ever.
All right. Oh, and to answer your question, fellow Grammy winner John Baptiste will be performing the national anthem, and the over-under is 120.5 seconds for that. That's
I'll
the
say
over-under.
under.
Yeah, I say under too. I know he doesn't have a really deep voice, but he's got the voice that can kind of carry a little bit. So I would take the under on that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, Christine, before you got it, before you jazz, see you're wearing your Anaheim Angels shirt. I know because of Chris. Tim, we talked about Tim Anderson being invited to spring training to see if he can get a spot. The former White Sox player. Another former White Sox player is officially joining that team for 1 year. Johan Makata.
Well, of course. Well, Chris, you have Johan Makana now on the Angels. Yeah, he forgot to tell me that part. Actually, I'm wearing this today because it's National Go Red Day, so that is the first Friday of February, and it's to bring awareness for like heart disease and stroke and whatnot. So yeah, I'm wearing my red today, and this just happens to be the top I picked.
Well, even still, yeah. I mean, Yohan McCullough should be a nice. He could be a nice addition. They look, like I said, it could be a potential low risk, but potentially high reward for the Angels. And of course, hopefully Tim Anderson can make the roster, the main roster, so that we get a little bit of White Sox union over there in Anaheim.
There you go.
And I know we'll leave you on this, Christine. I know that Chris is also happy with him being a Lakers fan, getting Luka Doncic. I know he was doing double backflips like Saturday night. You heard about that? It was about that trade.
We were shocked by Luka. Like many of us, woke up and saw it, and I looked at him and I said no, and he's like yes, and I'm like no, and then he's like yep. So he was kind of in disbelief too.
I think all Lakers fans were in disbelief. I think a lot. I think all the whole sports world were in disbelief after what happened last weekend. So yeah, looks like he was gonna make his debut against the Jazz on Monday. I know ABC was hoping that they would get their debut tomorrow, but that's not gonna happen. It looks like so, but it'll be interesting to see how he and LeBron will play together. So we'll see. We'll see. It should be interesting.
They seem to get along well so far, so that's good.
Yep. We'll see what happens there. All right, Christine, I know you got a jet, but before you go, tell us where people can follow you on these social media streets.
They can follow me at @CManika_KXRB.
All right, Chris. All right, Christy, it's been so much fun as always, and I'm sure we were able to get in for another few more minutes. I know you got a jet, but yeah, you're gonna take the next Friday off, so you're gonna be off for the next couple. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, but yeah, so stay safe and hey, Chris, and we'll talk to you guys in a couple of weeks.
All right, sounds good, guys. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thank you, Christine.
Enjoy the game.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah,
Enjoy the game.
too.
All right. All right, so let's take a really quick break. Of course, we're going to get some college hoops on as Illinois loses a tough one in Piscataway, New Jersey against Rutgers. Right, and also, too, some great matchups are coming up this weekend in college hoops. So sports media news where an NHL Hall of Famer criticizes Connor Bedard as Blackhawk fans are like in a tizzy. We'll talk about that and so much more. LaKeena, McGee, and Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. More fun as we wrap things up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. This is our last Football Friday show for the season. You're locked and loaded and live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
This is our last segment of the show for today and for the week. If you have any last minute questions or comments as we dive into sports media news, college basketball, and a little bit more in our grab bag segment, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Again, we'll get the up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. Off to the men's college soups we go. As a couple of days ago on Wednesday. Oops, sorry, kids. Illinois suffers a tough loss against Rutgers in Piscataway, 82-73. Dylan Harper that's Ron Harper's youngest son. He had 28 points for the Scarlet Knights. Will Riley in a losing effort there had 18 points for the Illini. And here we go again with Illinois. I mean, you thought that maybe everyone's back. They're starting to figure things out. It turns out they kind of go back into the bad habits. They did come back after they were down, but just too much Dylan Harper and the Knights were able to just too much Scarlet Knights as they pull away from Illinois.
The Illini did not shoot the ball well once again. They shot 41% overall, only 21% from three, but the discrepancies from the free throw line were pretty, excuse my French, damning to me. 28 of 34 from the free throw line for Rutgers, while the Illini went to free throw line 19 times. They only hit 13 of those 19 free throws, so that's not good. Remember, we talked about on our show on Monday from their victory last Sunday at home against Ohio State. They struggled shooting in the first half. What did they do in the second half? They were aggressive. They got to the free throw line, made the majority of their free throws, and locked down on D and won the game. You did not see that in a complete effort on Wednesday night. And also, too, with the total turnovers, the Illini had 13, Rutgers with the 9. What does that tell you?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so
take care of the damn basketball.
Well, yeah, second chance points were also a big thing too. And of course, a lot of there were some 3-pointers made for Rutgers. I mean, they made the threes late, and of course, Illinois kind of didn't really have an answer for them. And I think, look, Rutgers needed this win. I don't know if they're going to be in the tournament discussion, but I think this should definitely help them in that front. So Illinois has got a lot to figure out here. It gets even tougher. Like I said, we're getting to the trenches of the of conference play. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that kind of shakes out here. Now, 11 wins in a row for Duke as they had no trouble with Syracuse. Tyrese Proctor had 16 points. Cooper Flag had 15, but a nice solid win where all 5 stars were in double figures for Duke.
Yeah, and I know it was the debut of Dick Vitale on ESPN. Nice to see him back. He's healthy, and hopefully he's in it for the long haul. No pun intended. Obviously for his health first, and then of course too with it continuing with his broadcasting career. Now you mentioned with the Duke LaKeena, they've quietly been on the roll. We talked about on our show on Monday what they did to North Carolina at home last Saturday. It looks like they now they team that hoist the trophy at the Final Four. I'm not going to say it's an automatic, but I would not put them out of the conversation. They're one of a handful of teams that can win this whole thing when it comes to March Madness.
Yeah, they kind of, like you said, they've been kind of quietly, doing that. Which I think if you're John Shire, I think you like that. So you'll take people not really paying attention because they're like the quietest number 2 team in the country, and I think Coach Shire is fine with that. But yeah, I think if they can just keep it going, avoid any major injuries, they have a lot of depth, so they could definitely more than capable of winning it all. But yeah, I think let's kind of slow down on that because there are a lot of teams that are going to be. This is probably going to be one of the most wide open of national championship on the men's side that's in a long time. So we'll see. We'll got plenty of time to talk about that. Tennessee beat Missouri. Igor Milicic Jr. had 21 points for the Vols. He's the only player in any level of basketball. He has to have a game with 20 plus points. He had 11 rebounds. He had 6 assists, 4 blocks, and 2 steals. So that's 75% shooting from the field, and about 80% from the free throw line, and about 56% from the 3-point area. So he's probably one of the top players, and this is a lot of depth in that Vols squad. Memphis, no trouble with Tulsa. PJ Haggerty had 23 points there. Michigan's back on track. They beat Oregon. Oregon, they've lost 4 in a row. There, Illinois State beats UIC. So UIC, you have
another bad loss by the Flames. Yep.
They got to try to hang on. If perhaps they want to be near that top tier of the Missouri Valley. Villanova, too much for DePaul. They win by 10. Arkansas, they've won a couple in a row. They beat Texas. Georgia beat LSU. New Mexico beat Colorado State. Nebraska beat Washington. Cal with a nice win over NC State. And Wake Forest take care of business in Palo Alto against Cal. Stanford, I should say. My bad. Stanford in California.
Yeah, these are results from Wednesday that LaKeena's reading off here. Going back to the Missouri Valley, Bradley, who's trying to keep up with Drake in the Missouri Valley, California, had a bad loss at home the other night against Belmont, 80-77. We'll see if Bradley can get back on track. They have a big game coming up on Sunday. We'll give you that schedule in just a moment. I want to go to the Big Ten, LaKeena. I know Northwestern won their first game the other night. But and to get back on track, congratulations to Chris Collins and his crew. But Michigan State, we talked about Michigan getting back on track as you mentioned against Oregon on Wednesday. But Michigan State has lost the last couple of games. Indiana's going back into a tailspin. Quietly, Wisconsin is starting to creep back up there. Are you a believer in the Badgers? I know Purdue, they're the leaders in the clubhouse for that regular season title in the Big Ten. We'll put them to the side for the moment. But Wisconsin's starting to get a go again. USC, can they make a late push to get into that NCAA tournament? But I'll ask you about Wisconsin first. Are you a believer in them, or do you need to see more?
Yeah, I think look, we've seen Wisconsin. I know they didn't have a good showing against Marquette. They got their butts kicked over there. We'll get to Marquette, what happened to them in a bit. But yeah, I think Wisconsin could definitely be kind of like, I think the Big Ten is wide open, especially with Michigan State losing a couple in a row. Of course, Ohio State, they beat Maryland yesterday, so that should definitely help them with their tournament resume. So it's gonna be interesting to see like how the Big Ten, especially we're kind of getting to the trenches here, of course, because if you guys remember, only the top 15 teams make it to the tournament, the Big Ten tournament, I should say. The bottom 3, so it's definitely going to be like a battle between to get out of that bottom tier. So could be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of that group because there's going to be a lot of guys playing each other this weekend. So we'll see what happens there. Now, from last night, well, actually, from nice win for San Francisco on Wednesday, they beat. Yesterday, I should say, they beat St. Mary's. That should definitely freshen up their resume as well in the West Coast Conference. Oregon State beats Washington State there. Of course, like I said, these two are playing in the West Coast Conference this year because they're in transition for the big, for the Pac-10, Pac-10/12. And let's get into the schedule for this weekend. And of course, USC, offer a tough loss to Northwestern. They will try to get back on track against Purdue at 6 o'clock on FS1. VCU and Dayton on ESPN2. That's going to be a little A10 action. And it should be a good one here over in Stores at Gamble Pavilion as St. John's faces UConn at 7 o'clock on the Big Fox Network. San Jose State at Boise
Call me
State
crazy, but Rick Pitino should be Coach of the Year.
Definitely leaving in the clubhouse there. Done a great job with that St. John's program. San Jose State and Boise State at 8 o'clock on FS1. St. Louis and St. Joe's on ESPN2 as the A10 doubleheader. And Utah State and Florida State, I should say, at 9 o'clock.
All right, tomorrow, a big slew of important games. We'll just give you the big games here. At 11 o'clock tomorrow morning on ESPN, number 4 Tennessee will visit Oklahoma to take on the Sooners. At the same time on ESPN Plus, Iowa State will host TCU. Number 9, Michigan State, they need to get back on track. They'll host Oregon. That's on Fox. And at high noon on NBC, at NBC, Iowa, they need to get back on track. They'll host number 21 Wisconsin. I think this is a bigger game for Iowa. I know they're 13-9, but one more loss, and I think you can kiss their tournament hopes goodbye. Well, if Wisconsin gets this one, I think it puts them in a better shape to get in that top tier of teams in the Big Ten.
I agree. So we'll see if Wisconsin Carver Hawkeye Arena is going to be rocking there. Now at noon on CBS, you got Michigan and Indiana. Of course, the announcement was made last night that Mike Woodson, of course, the former standout in Indiana, has had a good show in the last couple of years. He's going to be out at the end of the season, so we'll see if they can at least send him out on top at the very least in style. So we'll see what happens there. Now, CW Network doubleheader starts off with Virginia Tech and Notre Dame. That's at noon. That's on WGN TV Channel 9 for those who are scoring at home. Marquette, we'll see what kind of mood they're in after losing earlier this week. They faced Creighton at 1 o'clock on Fox. We got Kansas and Kansas State. Got the Sunflower battle. Kansas, I know they're going to want their revenge after losing to K-State at home. So we'll see if they can return to favor Northern Illinois and Louisiana. That's on ESPN Plus at 1. You've got Miami and Louisville on ESPN2. You got UIC. They need this win down there in Carbondale as they face Illinois State at 1 o'clock on ESPN Plus.
All right, let's go to the late afternoon game. So number 1, Auburn will host number 6 Florida. That's at 3 o'clock p.m. on ESPN2. Florida needs to get back on track, especially at being thrashed at home last Saturday afternoon. So they need to get back on track. Tough game on the road against Bruce Pearl's number 1 ranked Auburn Tigers. The Houston Cougars, the 5th ranked Cougars in the country, they'll travel to Colorado. That's at 3 p.m. also on ESPN Plus. Another team that desperately needs to get back on track. North Carolina, they'll host Pitt in their revenge game from a week ago. That's also at 3 p.m. But this time on ESPNU. When's the last time North Carolina had a game aired on ESPNU? That's pretty bad.
Not a good showing for Hubert Davis. We'll see if they can get back on track. Now, on SC Network, you got number 10, Texas A&M against number 15, Mizzou. That should be a fun one. Mizzou hoping to get back on track after that tough loss to Tennessee. UCLA, they host Penn State. They beat Michigan State earlier this week. You had Kareem and Magic at the game together, and I'm sure dinner was on Magic that night. So we'll see if they can keep it going there. Mick Cronin and his guys. To the late games here, as we get going here to the late rounds. We got Mississippi State and Georgia. That's going to be on SEC Network. Illinois hoping to get back on track. They play Minnesota at 5 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. BYU and Cincy. That's going to be at 5 o'clock on ESPN2. Loyola, actually, you got Loyola and Duquesne on CBS Sports Network at 5. Illinois State and Northern Iowa on ESPNU at 5. You got Duke and Clemson. That should be a fun one at 5:30 on ESPN.
All right, your primetime games are as follows: CBS Sports Network at 7 o'clock on Saturday. Bradley, as we mentioned, with that tough loss to Belmont, they'll travel to take on Evansville. That's at 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Also, two at 7:30 on ESPN. Arkansas, John Calipari and crew, big win last week in Kentucky in his return. They'll host number 3 Alabama. And if my screen can clear up here, let's see. This is live, folks. This is live at 9:30 p.m. on ESPN tomorrow night. We'll have Texas Tech visiting Arizona, and the Northwestern Wildcats will travel to start their West.
All right, for Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. Of course, these are early. All these games are early. Rutgers coming off that big win against Illinois. Of course, you got Maryland coming off that big loss against Ohio State. Someone's got to give. That'll be on Big Ten Network. Xavier and Villanova. That's gonna be 11 a.m. on FS1. Temple and Memphis. We'll see if Memphis can give them a little bit of a get back after losing to Temple a couple of weeks back at 1 o'clock on ESPN2. Arizona State and Oklahoma State at 1 o'clock on ESPN Plus. And the late cap here, of course, these are before the Super Bowl at 1 o'clock. You get Ohio State and Nebraska, the Big Ten Network. This could be a bubble matchup. We'll see, but it should be interesting down over there in Omaha. And that is your schedule for this weekend in college hoops. Oh, Sid had to go off for a second. You gotta say this is live, folks. Well, let's see if we can get back on here. So yeah, that's your schedule for this weekend in college hoops. Again, we're getting right into the thick of it here in conference play. We're talking about bubble teams and such. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here as we'll give Sid a chance to get back up and going here. But yeah, it should be a fun weekend, and we'll see if Illinois can get back on track in Minnesota. And yeah, going to be a fun weekend in college hoops. Now, a little ladies action here, a special score of note. For the first time since 2007, Tennessee beats UConn, of course. Yeah, I mean, to me, I think women's college hoops is better when Tennessee is up there as well. We know UConn's been consistent the last few years. I know we know that Tennessee hasn't had a good showing, of course, with the death of Pat Summitt, and of course now Kim Caldwell is back. She's with the program now, and she's done a really great job. They got their 17-5. Talk about the Lady Vols, and then with a nice big win against Paige Beckers in UConn.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you before I cut out, LaKeena. Now since you going to women's college hoops, I know USC and Juju Watkins. She's having a great year, but I know they had that bad loss at Iowa last weekend for that Caitlin Clark retirement ceremony. Do you still believe they're a top team to take on the title?
I think they are. I think there was a lot of emotion there with, of course, Caitlin Clark was there. Their former coach was there. I think there's a lot of emotion. They were kind of feed off that. They've been playing okay, but you can tell they definitely taking a step back with, of course, with all the departures and such. So I'm not too worried about USC. Maybe they have another tough one against Ohio State. That's gonna be out Saturday night on the big Fox network. So nice of Fox to give them a big showcase game there. So yeah, I'm not too worried about them. Remember, Juice was only a sophomore, so I'm not too worried about her. That just should be a fun matchup with Ohio State. And of course, it's sort of the time when I think a lot of these teams are kind of like beating each other up. So it's okay.
Because in my opinion, and I saw them play about a week ago against Tennessee, even though they do have some new parts. Don Staley's crew with the South Carolina Gamecocks, I still believe they're the team to beat.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely up there. I think they've been playing a lot better lately. You can say, well, UCLA is still the number one team in the country on the women's side. So, I think they may have something to say about that. And I don't think they haven't been to the national championship. Or it's been a long time for the women anyway. So yeah, it's still pretty wide open at this point. So still a lot to figure out on the women's side. So, but it should be interesting. We'll see what happens.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. Let's squeeze in some baseball here real quick. We talked about it with Christine Manika, the former White Sox player. He's going to sign with the Anaheim Angels for 1 year, $5 million. Back here in Chicago, I'll go to you since you're the Cubs fan, resident Cubs fan on this program. Does Alex Bregman sign with the Chicago Cubs, or does Shaw, that prospect, will get the nod at third base? Jed Hoy is still playing toy here with the salary, with the finances here. If it's not too far apart, go ahead and bring in Bregman. He's still right in the prime of his career. It's not like he's an older guy. The Cubs can definitely use him, as we talked about on this show for the last few days. The NL Central is up for grabs, and with the transition of the St. Louis Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds, I think they're going to be dangerous this year with the new manager Terry Francona. Milwaukee, I assume they're still going to be competitive with the year that they had last year. I don't think they could be duplicated. So this NL Central is up for grabs in the Cubs. If you want to be taken seriously, especially with your job on the line, Mr. Hoyer, you need to be aggressive. Is Alex Bregman the answer at the hot corner?
Yeah, and of course, his agent Scott Boras, and this seems like similar to what happened with Cody Bellinger last season. I know, he said that he doesn't want to play for. He wants a 5 or 6 year deal. I know some the teams there. I think Houston has like about 5 years, and I think the money and such. So I think the Cubs have a similar, but with a lot of incentives. So I could kind of see him doing that, especially since spring training is coming up in a couple of weeks. So sorry, kids, if he's hoping
a couple of days for some teams.
Yeah, that's true. And a couple of days, and I think next week. Remember too, the Cubs coming early because they got to play the Dodgers, late later next month to start their season. So yeah, it is starting to follow. So I'm a little So I think he definitely has a chance to. I think the Cubs got a shot, but like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what Bregman's next move is, because he's definitely going to be sought after. Of course, there's a reason why he has not signed that contract to stay with Houston. So we'll see. It should be interesting.
Yeah, and also too, as we said too, the Cubs need another starting pitcher. Excuse me, is Dylan Cease the answer from San Diego, or will he go to Seattle or some other team that you can, of course, that you can try to acquire an extra starting pitcher? That's also another need too. If you take a look at their starting rotation, led by Shota Imanaga and Justin Steele, the rest will follow with Jordan Wicks and Javier Assad. That's all good and all, but you still need the extra star, especially the way the pitchers get injured these days. We've seen it over the last few years.
Yeah, so they definitely, so they definitely need to make another move, and I think Jed has another move up his sleeve, whether it's Bregman or whether it's another big signing. So yeah, I think with a couple of days to spring training, and even like a few days for some teams, I think they're gonna have to do something, Mr. Bregman is. So we'll see what happens.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you, heading down the home stretch. And LaKeena, we have a couple of minutes for some sports media nuggets, including someone, hockey legend, criticizing the current player. What's the latest?
Yeah, apparently, I wish we had a clip of that, but of course, Mark Messier, the 5-time Stanley Cup champion with the Oilers and the Rangers. Of course, does great for the ESPN. He basically says that I guess he's doing the whole thing about Bedard's kind of had taken a step back, and he doesn't like kind of like how he's been playing. You can compare him to Crosby. But I love me some Mark Messier. Favorite player, great analyst. But I think he needs to also remember too that he had Crosby had Evgeny Malkin playing with them. And of course, unfortunately, that's not the case with Mr. Bedard. So, and of course, Messier, of course, we know all the guys he played with those Oilers teams.
Yeah.
And we go with Gretzky and Bertuzzi and McSorley and and Fuhrer, among many others. So, unfortunately, right now the Blackhawks just aren't there. They're one of the worst teams in the league, unfortunately, and. So yeah, I think Mess is doing his job, but at the same time, though, I think it might be a little misguided and misplaced. What do you think?
I think it's I think in my opinion, it's trying to make it a little bit personal. Like you say, you have to be critical, but don't make it personal. Now, has Conor Bedard has had a great year? No, as you mentioned, you listed the reasons why. The players around him, they haven't stepped up their play either. Let's give the same heat to those guys that are his line mates as well. So, I know that Conor Bedard is one of the new faces for the NHL. He is the franchise face for the Blackhawks. But as far as the criticism of him is concerned, if you direct it towards him, okay, fine. Direct it toward the teammates that he's playing with on that first line as well, because they haven't done dilly pooey either.
No, so yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we'll try to get somebody on to talk some hockey, but yeah, because the Blackhawks, I actually saw the Blackhawks game a couple of days ago because they were actually on nationally. One of the few times I actually got a chance to watch the Blackhawks.
TNT.
So yeah,
Yep.
so yeah, so I know Hendrik Lundqvist. I know his criticism has been a little bit, but yeah, but he's kind of like, you know how classy he is. He kind of trying to keep it classy,
Mhm.
but yeah, but it's sort of like, yeah, I mean, it's not his fault that the team stinks. I mean, it's not Bedard's fault. I mean, and plus, look, he's only
Exactly.
19, folks. He's only 19. So, give the guy a break.
Yeah, you already changed head coaches. What else can you do as far as to salvage the season? You can't.
No. No, you can't. And so it's going to be interesting to see what will happen here now. As far as the rest of the NHLs, because like I said, we're going to get back to talking hockey fully here, but I think the Panthers have been playing very well lately. Toronto's been playing well. The Capitals, it looks like Mr. Ovechkin could be breaking Wayne Gretzky's record soon. We'll see, points record soon, so we'll see if he does that. Carolina, you know how much I love that Hurricane squad, Sid, with Brenda Moore on the bench coaching. The Jets have been playing very well. So the Oilers, with the aforementioned Oilers and the Knights. So those are kind of the teams that kind of stand out to me so far. How about you?
Yeah, you kind of stole the thunder from me again. Just Edmonton, we all know what kind of run they made in the playoffs last year. Hopefully, they can be more consistent and perhaps get over that hurdle in the playoffs. But a couple of teams that interest me is the New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils. The Devils are quietly doing it under the radar. They're a very solid squad. Can the Rangers finally turn around and be that team come playoff time? And of course, in the Western Conference, as we said for the last few years, it's up for grabs again.
Yeah, that's gonna be another thing too. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, look, their trade deadline's coming up, so I'm a little surprised to see if we see any teams, any moves that are gonna be making. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, like who's gonna be going where. So yeah, so it should be interesting with in hockey. So I'm looking forward to these next few weeks. They got about 29, 30 games left themselves. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here.
All right, a little breaking news just crossing the wires from our good friends at Awful Announcing. I think we've been talking about this for the last several years. Terry Bradshaw, who had a date to himself on Wednesday since the Super Bowl's in New Orleans this year, he announced his retirement plans from Fox in a quote from him. If we can get to the next Super Bowl, I'll be 80. I think that's time. That's pushing it. End quote.
Yeah, I think we kind of saw, especially after what happened. It was the last Super Bowl that Fox did a couple years ago. You kind of nothing, no shade. Look, I love TB dearly. Well, this TB, well, I love the other TB too, but yeah, this is the original TB, Terry Bradshaw. I mean, yeah, you can kind of tell he's kind of lost a step, but even he said that, look, I'm pushing 80. And yeah, so no, we're not doing that. So yeah, so good for him for retiring on his terms. And look, Gronk's been doing a great job, pitching in. We'll see if they can get somebody else from the sort of like the pre-game show. We'll see if they can kind of.
Yeah, like I said, Charles Woods is a good candidate for that.
Yes,
and also too, I don't know if you checked out his clips this week via social media, but Jameis Winston. Could he be now? Could he be, if not with the main Fox NFL Sunday crew? Could he be part of that Fox NFL kickoff, since Michael Vick's now coaching at Norfolk State?
But we're also, remember too, he had a great college career at Florida State, so don't be surprised if ESPN tries to make a play at him to do their college football coverage. Just saying.
Yeah, and also
too. Very sought after.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with Mr. Winston. And Finally, we'll talk about this more in depth next week, LaKeena, since it'll be the NBA All-Star break. But the NBA is returning fan vote to the slam dunk contest.
You're just asking for trouble there. You're asking for trouble, folks.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, we'll get more into that next week. Any other quick tidbits and nuggets before we close out?
Well, I mean, the NFL is softening their restrictions on what Tom Brady can do. You know, I think he's already in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, so should be so it should be interesting to kind of see what he does. I know some people, I know Jeff Agris from the Sun Times wrote an article saying that why is he even doing the Super Bowl? But I think people also got to remember he only has a small percentage of the Raiders. The Raiders are playing the Super Bowl, so I don't know what he's actually gotten better in the last couple of months, especially. I think the last 6 games I think he's done. So I think people need to look. You already said he's not gonna leave anytime soon. So I think people just need to kind of just deal with it, I guess.
Yeah. He'll be calling the game with Kevin Burkhardt this Sunday on Fox as Super Bowl 59 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles will take place in New Orleans, Louisiana. All right, LaKeena, take us home.
Wait, remember, Sid, the Fox owned streaming service Tubi or Tubi, I don't know what they call it, but remember, they're also going to be streaming the Super Bowl, and it's a free app.
Yes.
So if you're a cord cutter, and of course you check out Tubi, it's they're going to have coverage of the Super Bowl. So if you guys want to check that out for the first time, it's gonna be interesting to see how they do that. It's a free app. It's actually not a bad app. I know it's because you're seeing like a lot of the movies and the TV shows from way back when. And Sid will love this. It's free, so you just download it to your device. So all you need is an email address, and you're right there. You got the hookup to thousands and thousands of great titles for both adults and kids. I got a lot of great cartoons from back in the day, Sid, from our childhood and even beyond. So
they'll be featured a lot, I'm sure, on Old School TV Monday and then the weeks and months to come. So
sounds
good.
Those of you, it's also gonna be on Tubi, on the streaming service Tubi, the free streaming service. I gotta make sure I say that free streaming service. just an email. So, so the waste management open. I think Scotty Scheffler is right there in the thick of it. You guys, that tournament just outside Phoenix where you got those crowds, kind of those college type crowds. So, I believe Scotty's like 4 shots back. So, you could perhaps make a move this weekend. So we'll see what happens. But so you can check out the Waste Management Open, the Phoenix Open on CBS.
All right, now take us home.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, executes her again the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch replays anytime you want, right there of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch replays of all our great content on Sports Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
Of course, we also want to thank our girl Christine Manika from KXRB for joining us for our Super Bowl prop bets and so much more from KXRB. So she's gonna be off next week, so we're gonna give her a couple of weeks off to rest up. So of course, we want to thank her again for joining us. So you can check her out on KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota on their app.
And yes, and we'll be back on Monday to recap the Super Bowl, the halftime show, and then all the shenanigans. And we'll get into a little baseball talk and some more sports media news, I'm sure. And we'll have our second edition of Old School TV Monday, saluting Black History Month.
Ooh, you guys wait to see what show. It might be a show or it may not be a show you might have forgotten. So make sure we're going to get a little teaser there for you too coming up. Yeah, so Enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody, and enjoy all the sports, the rest of the sports this weekend as well. All the basketball, soccer, golf, what have you. So for Sid, I'm LaKeena. It's been Second Sports on Sports Chicago, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
They not like us. They not like us. Holla!